here we've got the 2 red aces, and we're just going to leave them in the middle like this. And we need a card signed, so do you want to sign that for me? Perfect. And we'll leave that on top. Now all I've got to do is take the cards and spring like that, and you see that now the top card isn't that 2. In the middle of the deck, in between the 2 red aces, there's 1 card.
It is incredible, I'm not just saying that, it is incredible.
We're just going to use the top card, the 4 of hearts. So Lloyd, just tell me to start. Start. Hi, I'm Ben Prime. Thank you for buying this download from Ellusionist.com. This is the Shadow Spring. So this is a move that I came up with about 3.5 years ago now. I originally had it as a colour change, but then I realised I could use it for so much more than that. Since then I've been developing it, refining it, making it what it is today, and hopefully you can learn it and work with it too. This genuinely isn't some sort of trick. I'm genuinely going to teach you how to spring the card from the top of the deck to any position you like. But first we'll need to go through the basics, the basic mechanics of the move, a few different routines with it, and then after that we can get into the advanced stuff with springing it between cards to any position you like in the deck, stuff like that. So this is quite an advanced Sleight, so I'd assume that the people who have downloaded this should already know how to do a spring from the corners of the deck. But if you don't, I'll just go through it now. It won't take long to learn. It's relatively simple. So the basic grip for this spring is using the 2nd and 3rd fingers. You're going to push this corner of the deck against those joints like that, and the thumb is going to grip on the other side, just overhanging the end of the bottom of the deck. So what you should be able to do is just squeeze slightly and feel the cards bow in your hand like that. Now once you've squeezed them a little bit, you're just going to relax slowly, and as you relax the cards are going to push off your thumb one at a time and into the other hand, which is spread nice and wide to catch them. So remember, don't squeeze tighter when you're doing the spring. Relax your hand and that will make the cards spring away and into the other hand. Okay, so the basic grip for the move that you need to get into is sort of like mechanics grip, but you're moving the first finger from there down to that side. So now what you've got is thumb resting here, first finger there, and the 3 fingers just resting down on that side as well. And what that'll allow you to do is move this card down a little bit, like you would if you were doing a sort of Cardini ego style change. But at the same time, your thumb's going to hold that in position like this, making sure that it can't move anywhere else. So that means that what will happen is a little corner will be exposed down here, and the other corner will be exposed up here, for you to get your fingers in and get into the position for the spring. So remember, 2 fingers against that point there and thumb on that bit there, and that'll allow you the clearance to do that with that card style on top. What's going to happen after you've moved this down slightly to expose that corner and that bit there, remember you're holding this to stop it from shifting upwards, is your other hand's going to come over and get in position for the spring, which is the 2nd stage. Now what's happening with the spring? 2 things are happening at once. The first is these fingers are relaxing and letting that card go down and rest against them like this. It's not being held against the deck, it's just being rested on them, just like that. And the other thing that's happening is you're starting the spring with the other hand. So two things happening. That card shifts down as you start the spring. So I'll show you this step by step in slow motion. So this card's going to come down, rest like that. Just imagine I'm doing the spring at the same time. And as the spring happens, as these cards clear that bit there, you're just going to push upwards slightly with those fingers, and that should be enough just to force the card back into line with the rest of the cards on the deck. And what will help is when these cards hit that card there as they're still being sprung, they'll push it back into line and make the move almost invisible. So you're coming down like that, and as the spring starts, that's just being pushed back into the middle. Now this may seem like a bit of a difficult or strange move, but we'll go through different angles, try and explain exactly what's happening here as we do it. And what shouldn't happen with it is it shouldn't be a sort of stop and then you carry on the spring. You should be inserting the card in during the spring, so the spring shouldn't stop. The spring is a constant here. The card being pushed in doesn't really interrupt it at all. The card just gets pushed wherever it needs to be pushed into the middle. Now this is a difficult move. It's going to take a while for you to get down, but once you've got it, it becomes pretty much effortless to do it without thinking. Once you've practiced it a little bit, it becomes so much easier, and even if you're not quite getting it right every time, getting the basic move just for colour changes and stuff like that is always worth it. So let's get into more detail with the move, explain it from a few different angles, and try and explain exactly what's happening when you spring this card into the middle of the deck. So remember with the technique, 4 fingers down this side, thumb on this side. Apply pressure with the little finger down there, which will cause this corner to be exposed down here and that corner to be exposed up there. Then what's going to happen is the thumb is going to place itself in between those 2 bits of corner there and grip this corner like that, leaving a little bit of a gap there for that card on top. And then when the spring starts, that card's going to fold down and get sprung into the middle of the deck, like so. So one more time, nice and quickly. Thumb on this side, 4 fingers down here, little finger and the 3rd finger slightly apply pressure. Thumb holds this card against the deck. Other hand comes in, 2 fingers on there. Thumb on that corner. Buckle the cards. That card folds down and into the middle. Obviously, do a little bit more of a spring than that, but it's difficult to demonstrate in slow motion. So at speed, from this angle, you can probably see it quite well. It would look like this. So take the card and spring into the middle like that.
Let me film.
One thing to remember is the importance of the speed of that initial movement when you're moving this card from that position down here as you start the spring. So when these fingers come over, when you start the spring, that card needs to be down pretty much instantly in order to let you start it. What will help with that is once you start the spring, when you're pulling away, that will push the card down slightly into the fingers. And once you get quicker at it, that should happen in a split second. It should be down and then back in within a second or 2. So remember, when you're pushing away, you're using these cards to push it down. Then when it gets to here, you're using those cards to push it back in. So the most obvious use for this, and the first one that I found, was as a colour change. So to do this, you're going to want to get a break under the top 2 cards, double lift, so you've got one card on the face and the way you want to change it to underneath, and then you're just going to perform the move as normal. So these fingers push down slightly, and because indexes are in this corner and that's just white space, that still looks like a face down card underneath. Then when you get your fingers in, you're just shifting that into the middle and leaving that one on top. And because of the shielding nature of this hand and the spring, it should look like it changes as the spring happens. So I'll just show you that again at speed. Like that. Now what will happen to the other cards is it will get sprung somewhere into the middle of the deck. So obviously this isn't ideal as a colour change if you want to end entirely clean. However, it's got a lot of applications in routines and stuff like that when you want to get a card into the middle. So one more time. Just push down slightly there. Sorry. So one more time. Double turnover. Move down with those fingers. Start to spring. And then just leave that card, single card, on top at the end and this one in the middle. So if, after doing the colour change, you do want to spread the deck, the card's going to be in the middle. So spread the first few, jump the middle where that card is, and then spread the final few like that. So you can show all of these face down and all of the cards face down. You're just skipping that middle segment where that face-up card is. So this is the transposition. This is what it looks like. So we've got a card, let's say the 6, left in the middle of the deck, and we'll also use the top card here, which happens to be the 10. Now if we spring the cards, what happens is the 6 is now on top and the 10 is in the middle of the deck. So that's what the transpo looks like. Let's get into teaching it now. So for the transpo, the first thing you need to do is get a card touched or selected and returned face up to the middle of the deck. Then you're going to spread over one more card, close up this packet and get a break above that face down card there. So that card should be second card from the top of that packet, and you should have a break above the card above it like that. Now normally I pass the deck to get the card to the top, but you can also double undercut, any method that you can to control this packet to the top and their card second to the top of the deck. Now what's going to happen is you're going to turn away, wrist kill, so they can't see this face-up card here, and turn over the top card on top of that one there. So they should think their card's still in the middle of the deck and this is just the top card. Now you're going to spring, which will leave that card on top, and in the middle the other card there which they thought was on top a minute ago. So that's the basic mechanics of the transpo. So this is the force using the shadow spring, which can use the top card, the 4 of hearts. So Lloyd, just tell me to stop. Stop. Okay. Have a look at the card. Should be the 4 of hearts. So the force with the shadow spring is just using the same mechanics and the same move, but instead of dropping the card immediately back in, you're delaying it for a second and allowing them to say stop before you do so. So you're going to start exactly the same way with the force card on top of the deck. You're going to take the cards, spring, and wait for them to say stop. When they say stop, you're just going to move the hands away and push that card up and back in with the fingers on this hand, just like that. Now what will happen, because they're viewing from this direction, that entire action will be covered by the hand. So when they say stop, you can just flick that back in and immediately show them that's their card. Now there are a few things to do with timing that you've got to bear in mind with this. When they say stop, you've got to make sure that you're still somewhere near the middle of the deck like this. If it goes past that point, just stop the spring and start again, because you should be in a position here where you can just literally collapse it all back down and keep that card on top of the deck. So they say stop about here, you push that card in with the fingers, move it away, and then you can show that card nice and cleanly, nice and fairly, and then just carry on the spring, keep it in the middle, do whatever you like with it. So this is a nice routine you can do with the shadow spring. We'll just take out the cards. So Lloyd, actually, just tell me when to stop.
Stop.
There. Okay. Have a look at the card.
Yep.
Remember it. And we'll leave that card somewhere near the middle of the deck. Now all I'm going to do is take the cards like this and spring it. You see that now all of the cards actually turn red all the way through the deck, apart from one card in the middle that's blue, and that's your card, the 5 of clubs. So for this colour changing deck trick, all you'll need is 2 cards of a different colour to the rest of your deck. So I'm using 2 blue cards on a red deck of bicycles. You're going to start with both of these cards on top of the deck, and as an extra convincer you can get a blue card box just to put them in, just to start the routine off. So all that you're going to do is you're going to force the top card, which in this case is the 5. Now you can do this quite a few different ways. You could do this as a slip force, so which looks obviously like that, but you couldn't because I've just slipped both cards in. Multiple card slip force. You could do this as a slip force, so they tell you where to stop there, like that, and then bring it up, obviously not flashing the red card underneath like I just did, but the way that I prefer to do it is as a riffle force. So all that you're going to do before you start is just, as you're talking to them, move that top red card, the force card, into the middle of the deck and keep a break. Now obviously you can't do the riffle force down here because you can see on the corners that that's actually red. So you're going to want to lift it up, riffle force up here, ask them to tell you when to stop, and no matter where they tell you to stop, you're just going to lift off at your break and push up that selected card, the force card, like that. Show them, bring everything back down, and then push it in, making sure to display, without being obvious, the fact that there are 2 blue cards there. Now, with the shadow spring, what you're going to do is you're going to spring the cards, and you're going to spring this top indifferent card to any position that's lower than that of that card there. We'll go through how to shift cards to certain positions later in the download, or earlier in the download. We'll go through how to shift cards to different positions, but you're going to want to take the top card and shift it so it's lower than the other one. It helps if the deck that you're using is slightly older. The 2 cards that you're using are slightly older because you can see on the line of the side exactly where that card is. So when you do the shadow spring and you shift that card underneath the other one, it's going to look like the entire deck has changed red, apart from that 1 blue card which is their selection in the middle. Now to show the entire deck clean, what you can do is move a few cards further, push off the block here where their card is in 1, and then show the bottom cards as well. And that looks nice and clean as a colour changing deck routine. So now we're going to go into how to shift a card from the top of the deck to literally any position you like in the deck. It's quite a difficult move, but it's worth practicing. And once you've got it down, you'll be able to do it pretty much automatically at any point. So the way that I discovered I could do this was I was doing it as a colour change. And every time I did it, the cards seemed to move to the same place. And I noticed that, and I worked on that to try and get it so that I could shift it to different places. So the way to start learning it is to start like I started. So what you want to do is take 2 or 3 face-up cards, leave them on top of the deck, and then you're just literally going to spring them without thinking, without trying to put them anywhere specific, into the middle of the deck. And what should happen is you should find that they group in a similar area. Sometimes it's closer than others, but it should group in a similar sort of area. So let me try that again. So you're going to spring the 3 cards and they should group in a similar sort of area. Like this. So it's not exactly similar all the time, but they should group in about the same place if you're just doing it absent-mindedly. Then what you're going to do is you're going to count down and figure out exactly how many cards that is. So for example, for me, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. So the general area that I spring to without thinking is about 20 cards down, 21 cards down. So what you need to do is figure out exactly what that number is for you. I've known some people who've learned it, it'll be about 35, some people it'll be about 15. But once you know that number, you can use that as a scale to figure out how to get to different places. So for example, to spring it further in, you can get 2 or 3 cards again and just think about trying to get it a bit further down the deck, and you're going to start the spring a bit lower. So you're going to start a bit more quickly, and you're also going to flick it in a bit more quickly like that, so that it moves in a bit further down the deck. So you're going to do that a few times as well. So you're going to start here, spring it a bit deeper, and again spring it a bit deeper, and you should find that they collect at about the same place as well, without really thinking about it. And then you need to figure out exactly what that number is as well. So now you've got 2 markers. You've got one that's your natural marker and one that's sort of on the other side of the deck. So if it's at the top half, like mine's 21, you want to try and get it in the 30s down here, but it doesn't matter too much. If it's down here, you want to try and get it at the top, and if it's in the middle, try either of the two. And once you've got that, you've got the basic idea of how to shift it into different places. So now automatically you've got 2 positions that you can reliably shift a card to, somewhere near the top and somewhere near the bottom. But what you're also going to want to do is try and control it slightly more exactly. So now you've got these 2 places, you should know what it feels like to shift it to those. And you should be able to start working towards shifting it toward position. So if you know what it feels like to shift it to 21 and 35, say, to shift it to 26, it should be about halfway between those 2. I think that one's, yeah, that's about 24 there. But shift it to 26, it should be about halfway between those 2 positions. And it's going to sound strange, but you just need to try it. You just need to do it, work with it, and see exactly how you can get it to those places. So what you can do to help you learn is turn over every, say, 5th card. So for example, I'll have one at 5, 10, 15, 20, all the way down. And then when you shift and you're trying to hit a certain place, you can try and hit it between those numbers and know a little bit more exactly. And from there, it's just a matter of refining it down until you know it sort of becomes a muscle memory exactly where it's going. And if the cards face up, what you can do to check as well is after you've done the spring, you should be able to see the face-up card slightly differently to the face-down cards in the deck. It's got a slightly different colour to it. You should be able to see that about there. Can you see that on camera, Lloyd? Yeah. Great. So you can use that to check as well. So after you've done the spring, sometimes in performance you might see me just glancing at the side of the deck like that, and that can instantly tell me roughly how far up it is. So if I'm a few off, I can displace them or something like that, but we'll get into that in a minute. So if you're shifting it down and you miss position, there are 2 types of misses. There's one type which is very easy to deal with and one type which is a little bit more difficult. The first type is 1 or 2 cards off. So if I would shift it into the middle, let's say I was doing an any card at any number type effect. Normally I do it face down, but I'll do it face up here. Shift it into the middle, and I could see from here that, let's say I wanted to get it to 26, that's about 28. I can see from here that it's a few off. What I can do, for example, is displace the top cards as I'm talking. So it could be, so I want you to take these cards and just count them down one at a time onto the table, and then just take those cards and move them to the bottom afterwards or something like that. Or show, so your card isn't on top anymore, and then move them to the bottom. Any excuse you can have to displace 1 or 2 cards, either way, works really well to get it to exactly the right position. One other thing you can do is have the jokers on top of the deck, turn them over and say, oh, forgot to remove the jokers, and just put them in your pocket. Anything like that, that can just change the order and move it 1 or 2 up or down, that's perfectly manageable. The other thing that happens very occasionally if you mess up is it shifts very far, wildly out of position. Now that happens to me very occasionally now, but it used to happen a little bit more. And when that happens, there's not really that much you can do apart from either cut it back to the top or do something else with the effect. But like, you know, if you're trying to get it up here and it ends up down right at the bottom of the deck, for a lot of routines that doesn't really matter too much. But if you're trying to do an A card at a number or something like that, you might have to pass it back to the top and then try again, or go into a different type of routine with it, go into a different out. But it is trial and error. It does take practice. Like any routine, you're not going to get it straight away first time, and I'm sure there have been times with other techniques that things haven't gone quite right and you've just got out of it. It's exactly the same thing with this move. It just might take a little bit more practice to get it exact. One thing you might have seen in the trailer for this move is me shifting the top card in between 2 face-up cards in the middle of the deck. Now, the easiest way of doing this is to have those 2 face-up cards at the point that you naturally spring to. So mine's about 21st down, so I'll place them about there. And the way to check that is just to take those 2 face-up cards at the top again and just spring them in without really thinking about it, without trying to get them into a specific place. And they should end up, yeah, about the right place. Oh, nice sandwich effect, but wasn't what I was going for. So you're just going to leave those in the middle. So it's literally just exactly the same as sort of absent-minded spring to the middle. So as you do that, that's going to push in. And, oh, actually this time it hasn't worked. This time it was 2 off. But if it is off like that, what you can do for one is you can cull it in if you need to, do something like that and show. Or shift the aces and try again from a slightly different position. It's all about practice, it's all about getting it right. It doesn't work 100% with stuff like this. So obviously it's pretty much the same thing. You're just absent-mindedly taking the top card and you're springing it into the centre of the deck like that, in between the aces. That's going to take a lot of practice, but it's quite a nice move when you finish it and you actually manage to do it. So you can use it as a sort of stunt to show how good you are with cards rather than an effect, because then that looks a bit better when you actually hit it. A lot of people, when I show them this, they don't actually believe that's what I'm doing. A lot of magicians don't think that I'm actually taking the top card and shifting it into the middle. So I can use this as a demonstration that that's exactly what I'm doing. So you can do it the other way around as well. You can do it as a sort of sandwich thing with the 2 aces on top, and you can shift them one at a time into the middle and have them sandwich 1 card in between, like that. And for example, if you've got the selected card on top and that's just a random card in the middle that you've sandwiched it between, you don't have to locate it exactly, you've just got to get 1 card in between them. Obviously it doesn't actually have to be the selected cards that you end up sandwiching in between the aces. It can just be the top card of the deck, and then you can go into a sort of classic sandwich display like that and just show that that's their card in between them, even if it actually isn't. So hopefully you'll have fun with this move, you'll enjoy it. Remember, when you're practicing, you're not going to get it straight away. It is quite a difficult move, but just keep at it, keep trying, and one day it'll just sort of click like that and then you'll be able to do it. I've taught quite a few people this effect in person and all of them seem to have got it after a little bit of practice. And the first time that you manage to shift it successfully to a position you want, that's a really good feeling. So thank you for buying this download. I'm Ben Prime. If you've got any more questions, need to contact me, you can do so through the Ellusionist forums or my Facebook page.